they've hit the market, and the pricing, which was earlier $150 to $175 a month for Wegovy, has now come down to as low as $15 to $20 a month. The number of prescriptions that were being given for this drug has gone up by almost 7 times.
For millions of people living with obesity, weight loss drugs have been hailed as a game changer. They're known as GLP-1s, but you might have heard of the trade names like Mounjaro, Wegovy, Ozempic. And so far, they've only been made by 2 companies in Denmark and in the US. India has one of the highest obesity rates in the world, and demand for them there is really high. But until now, they've been quite expensive. Now India is able to produce cheaper copies of the drugs. But there are concerns that with costs coming down, more people might use them for cosmetic reasons too. So how will India producing cheaper weight loss drugs change the global market? Is it a public health breakthrough or a new and growing weight loss craze? I'm Hannah, and this is What in the World from the BBC World Service. We're going to find out more about this now from Archana Shukla, the BBC business correspondent in Mumbai. Hi, Archana, welcome.
Hi, Hannah.
So weight loss drugs do seem to be everywhere in India at the moment. What is the reason for this? Why is there such a boom?
Well, Hannah, there are a few things that have come together at the same time. First, there is definitely a need. India has a growing weight and a health problem. We know that India is turning into a diabetics capital of the world. We have about 100 million diabetics living in India, and this is just second to China. And we know obesity and diabetes are also linked, and we are seeing in India the levels of obesity are rising very fast. There is growing affluence, people have money to spend, lifestyles have turned sedentary, and with that, data now suggests that 1 in 4 Indians are actually overweight. At the same time, there is also this growing, rising middle class that has more money to spend. They are more aware about, how they look, about their health, and they are willing to look for quick solutions on the go. Along with that, with this backdrop, now these drugs are also becoming more affordable and easy to access now that some of the patents have gone. So really, all of these things have come together.
The patent on semaglutide, that is the molecule behind the weight loss drugs in Wegovy, Ozempic, that ran out earlier this year in India as well as in China. Can you explain why that matters?
Well, Hannah, patents are essentially legal rights that you get to prevent somebody from copying your invention. So if somebody has made a new product or a drug or a service, you get a patent, and that means that for a certain period of time, you will have exclusive rights to make and sell that product or service. And this matters very enormously in the pharmaceutical world, because drug companies spend years, sometimes decades, and billions of dollars in developing new drugs into research. And then they get a patent on that molecule, which essentially gives them a period of time in which they have exclusive right to sell that product, recoup their investment, make profit of it. But that patent doesn't last forever, right? So Danish pharma giant Novo Nordisk had the patent on that molecule semaglutide you just mentioned, which essentially powers, drugs like Wegovy and Ozempic. So Novo Nordisk had that patent. In March this year, that patent expired in countries like India, China, even Canada, and over the course of this year, it will expire in many other countries. Now, when that patent expires, other companies can legally make versions of that drug and sell. Now, because these other companies did not spend billions of dollars in research behind that drug, they can make it at a much cheaper price and sell in the market. So what happens is multiple new brands come into the market and prices for these drugs drop dramatically. So if I give you an example of what has happened in India, in just about a few weeks, about 30 to 40 different versions of that product, which are called generics, they've hit the market, and the pricing, which was earlier $150 to $175 a month for Wegovy, has now come down to as low as $15 to $20 a month. The number of prescriptions that were being given for this drug has gone up by almost 7 times in just the first month of this drug becoming generic. So in terms of access, in terms of the number of people using it, it has grown by at least 7 times.
Now let's hear from Dr. Kiran, who's the doctor who prescribes weight loss drugs to some of her patients and also uses them herself.
For us, GLP-1s are actually a game changer. We have patients that try everything, diet, lifestyle changes, but just couldn't manage to lose weight or keep the weight off. And GLP-1s became really important, especially for people with obesity or who are entering obesity and have risk factors to actively change their lives. So for us, game changer. A lot of things on social media highlight the risks, and they talk about the scariest possible side effects, even if they're extremely rare. And then people are scared of doing it. So the people that actually need it are so scared to take it. And that's a real issue.
We are now going to hear more about how these drugs work. Here's our health correspondent, James Gallagher.
So if you think about what happens when we have something to eat, so this is my kiwi fruit snack pot. Now, if I had something to eat, I won't force you to watch me chewing. It goes into your stomach, and what happens is your body recognizes that you're starting to fill up, and it releases something called GLP-1 into the body, and that travels around to the brain and tells you you're full. Now, obviously, you don't stay full all day or all week because that GLP-1 gets broken down by the body. So where these drugs like semaglutide come in is they've been engineered in the laboratory. They do the same thing as GLP-1, but they don't get broken down, so they last and are constantly telling your brain that essentially you're full and you don't need to eat. So that's one of the main ways these drugs work, by reducing people's appetite. Now, there are some side effects that people get with them as well. So some people really can't hack it because it makes them feel sick, or it really affects the way their digestive system works, and it can be quite messy or even constipated. So that's why some people don't stick with it. And the issue is when people stop, they tend to put the weight back on, because that message that your body is full is suddenly gone, but you've lost a lot of weight in the meantime, and that means your body is just desperate to eat food, and you put the weight back on.
How easy is it to get them now in India? Do people still need a prescription from their doctor? Can they get them from the pharmacy?
They do need a prescription. It is a prescription drug, and a doctor, a medical practitioner, needs to sign off on that prescription for you to buy it. With multiple pharma companies in India now producing versions of this drug at cheaper prices, there are about 30 to 40 brands on the shelves. And, it is easy in terms of availability, in terms of access to these drugs. So it is a positive for people who medically need it. But we were seeing, in the last 1 year, a lot of these medicines were being doled out without a prescription, illegally. You could actually walk up to a chemist and buy it over the counter, which should ideally not be allowed. There have been instances where people had called it on, online, through online pharmacies to their home. Gyms, beauty clinics, they had actually started giving packages where they were doling out these drugs, to people who were looking at quick fixes to manage their weight. But now with these, so many drug companies coming into the market, the authorities have become more stringent. Policies are now more, have been tightened. They've also, raided some of these slimming clinics or gyms, etc., who were, doling out these medicines off-label. And there have also been very strict advisories being issued that medical companies, pharma companies should not advertise these drugs as something that, people can easily buy and consume it on their own. These advertisements must be more responsible in terms of advising that you must visit your doctor. And it should also talk about the side effects. So now you definitely need a prescription. We also went out last month to check if, can we go and just buy it over the counter? But the chemists in multiple stores did ask us for a prescription. So that part has now been taken care of.
India is sometimes called the pharmacy of the world. That's what I've heard it be referred to because of its massive pharmaceutical industry, and it's known for producing generics. And as it now starts to produce generics of some of the ones that we've talked about, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, could that help solve shortages elsewhere in the world and actually bring down prices globally?
India definitely is in a position to help ease shortages, lower pricing for these drugs in multiple markets. Some of the companies in India are already seeking approvals to sell generic versions in Canada, in some of the Middle Eastern countries, in some of the African countries, and other markets where these drugs eventually will go off patent. In March, I was actually at a factory that produces this drug, and they were telling me that the demand from the other countries is already coming in. So they're already negotiating contracts to supply these drugs.
It's absolutely fascinating, and it has been such a game changer for people with these health issues, for obesity, for diabetes, who haven't been able to find treatments that have worked for them before. Archana, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hannah. It was lovely speaking with you.
You too. Before we go, thank you so much for the comments that you left on our episode on saunas and cold plunges and whether they're good for us or just a bit of a health fad. Quinn said that they feel their skin always looks better after a sauna, but we also got another comment that says saunas don't do much and haven't really made a noticeable difference. So wherever you stand on the saunas and cold plunges debate, do keep those comments coming. For now, that's it from me. I'm Hannah, and this is What in the World from the BBC World Service.